Hey friends, welcome back to Embrace the Question. It's Bible study with me time. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you have your Bible and your notebook and you're just ready to chillax with me for a few minutes. Hey, I appreciate you guys that have been on this journey, who ask questions, who get on the Facebook page, write me, all that neat stuff. Especially those guys that are supporting me through the blog, through Patreon. Love you guys. But I realize that that isn't something everybody can do, and I still want to invite you to log in, ask questions if you need them. They don't necessarily have to be related to the videos. I am a pastor. If you need advice, shoot your questions to me. I will shoot you as straight as I possibly can on my answer. I really want to see you guys do well in body, soul, and spirit. Really do. Now, you may have noticed the thumbnail on this particular video. Let me show this to you. This thumbnail is the closest thing I could think of to somewhat dealing with the subject matter at hand here in Genesis chapter 34. It is not a real photo. It is AI, which is artificial intelligence, generated artwork. Isn't that cool? Now, if you've never heard of such a thing, well, it's becoming the new rage, generating your own art, having a computer generate the art for you. It's pretty neat. There are some scary aspects. I grant you that. But if you'd like to know more about this, I invite you to log on to YouTube on my good friend Greg's page. He has a channel called Greg Talks Tech, and he explains this whole process of generating AI-generated art from your own PC. You give it the subject matter. Now, the subject matter that I chose was, give me 10 angry-looking Bedouins planning for a war. And the computer didn't give me 10, but it gave me a really good sampling of what it might look like to have a bunch of angry desert dwellers preparing for such a thing. And we're about to talk about that thing right now. All right, we are in Genesis chapter 34, and the saga of Israel/Jacob continues. Remember, we left off in the last chapter with the conclusion simply that these guys really aren't all that nice. Yes, they are the building blocks for the family of the faith, of the Messiah even. And yet they're not all that nice. And we are going to see that demonstrated right here. You ready? Let's go. Genesis 34, verse 1. Now, Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the women of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her, he seized her and lay with her and humiliated her. That is Bible speak for he raped her. He saw something he liked and he took it. What's interesting to me is this seems to be a recurring theme within the family. Every time Abraham went to a place, the prince of the land saw Sarah. And then we had the same problem with Isaac. And now, lastly, here's Jacob. Now, we didn't have the problem with Jacob's wives, but we are having the problem with Jacob's daughter, Dinah, born to him through Leah. All right, verse 3. And his soul, this is Shechem's, the perpetrator, Shechem, his soul was drawn to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. So Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, "Get me this girl for my wife." Now, that tells me that this prince knew he had started something that he's going to have some help finishing. He's going to have some cooperation or some agreement to get what he wants ultimately. Okay, so he has a little bit of understanding. This guy acts like a very young man. We'll see. Now, Jacob heard that he had defiled his daughter Dinah, but his sons were with his livestock in the field, so Jacob held his peace until they came. Verse 6. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. The sons of Jacob had come in from the field as soon as they had heard of it. But the men were indignant and very angry because he had done an outrageous thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, for such a thing must not be done. But Hamor, the Hivite, spoke with them, saying, The soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him to be his wife. Make marriages with us, give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. You shall dwell with us, and the land shall be open to you. Dwell and trade in it, and get property in it. Okay, this sounds like an honorable offer. It certainly did not start honorably, but they are doing their best to smooth this out. I believe probably there are a lot of considerations involved that we can't see here. One is that Jacob is not just a single family dwelling in a suburb of Canaan here. He's a powerful man. We don't know exactly how long after his encounter with Esau has gone by here. We don't know how much time has passed. Jacob had a lot of men and an entourage and cattle and all these possessions, probably servants for just to take care of it all. I am sure he's probably even grown that by now. He's not a small force to contend with. So Hamor is trying to do his best to make this a non-issue, or perhaps just smooth it over. Let's invite him to the family, okay? Let's keep going. Verse 11. Shechem also said to her father and to her brothers, Let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say to me, I will give. Ask me for as great a bride price and gift as you will, and I will give whatever you say to me. Only give me the young woman to be my wife. So this young man has made a mistake. He has raped a woman, and we don't know Dinah's position in this at all. It is left out. She could have consented to some degree. She obviously was in Canaan with the other women of the land. It's probable that she was involved or also observing the local religious customs, because it hints of festival. It hints of she went to be involved with a thing, an event, a season, a feast maybe. And these are Canaanites. So these are not God-fearing people. Okay? That's interesting to me. We don't know Dinah's stance, but we know that this man, Shechem, has fallen for her. He wants her to be his wife. And he is a prince of the Hivites. That's one of the Canaanite tribes that are really supposed to be pushed out eventually. All right, let's keep going. The sons of Jacob answered Shechem, this is verse 13, and his father Hamor deceitfully, because he had defiled their sister Dinah. And they said to him, We cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a disgrace to us. Only on this condition will we agree with you, that you will become as we are by every male among you being circumcised. All right, they are feigning honorable intent as well. Then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters for ourselves, and we will dwell with you and become one people. That sounds inviting. But if you will not listen to us and be circumcised, then we will take our daughter and we will be gone. Their words pleased Hamor and Hamor's son Shechem, and the young man did not delay to do this thing, because he delighted in Jacob's daughter. Now he was the most honored of all his father's house. So Hamor and his son Shechem came to the gate of their city and spoke to the men of their city, saying, "These men are at peace with us. Let them dwell in the land and trade in it. For behold, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters as wives and let us give them our daughters. Only on this condition will the men agree to dwell with us, to become one people, when every man among us is circumcised as they are circumcised." So these guys knew what that involved. They were familiar with the term, familiar with the practice. That's of interest as well. Verse 24, "And all who went out of the gate of the city listened to Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male was circumcised, all who went out of the gate of his city." This is probably not a large city. These early Mesopotamian dwellings were fairly tiny, like we're talking probably maybe several hundred people. A large city was considered into the thousands. That was a large city. Verse 25. "On the third day, when they were sore, and I'll bet they were, two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and came against the city while it felt secure, and killed all the males. They killed Hamor and his son Shechem with the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house and went away." That's of note. Dinah was still there. It seems like she was being held captive. If they are being honorable, or feigning at least honorability, why is she still in their home? Did she want to be in their home? Has she fallen for this man Shechem? Interesting. Well, now, Dinah's brothers, her full brothers, the brothers born to Leah, Simeon and Levi. Remember, Levi, this is where we get the lineage of the Levitical priests. This is the guy, the father of the priesthood. Violent man. Verse 27, "The sons of Jacob came upon the slain and plundered the city, because they had defiled their sister. And they took their flocks and their herds and their donkeys and whatever was in the city and in the field, all their wealth, all their little ones and their wives, all that was in the houses, they captured and plundered. And then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, 'You have brought trouble on me by making me stink to the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites and the Perizzites. My numbers are few, and if they gather themselves against me and attack me, I shall be destroyed, both I and my household.' But they said, 'Should he treat our sister like a prostitute?'" And there we have the cliffhanger ending to chapter 34. One of the things that I noticed here is Jacob's lack of guilt. He's not upset about what they did as much as he's upset about the position what they did put him in. That tells us a little bit about Jacob himself. He's self-centered. He's in preservation mode. That's probably not where we found his great-grandfather most of the time. He just doesn't seem to have the maturity of Abraham. It's not coming through the text here. What are you seeing as a whole? I mean, if you really back up and take a 10,000-foot view of this situation, what do you notice? Well, I see, again, the failure of the flood. The flood was there to wipe out the ungodly, to preserve the righteous, right? That was the obvious intent. And now we see that the flood has done no such thing. It didn't manage to do its job. there are still even the righteous. Who would you label as the righteous in this story? There aren't any. This is Jacob and his sons acting like brigands, acting like complete criminals. And there aren't righteous people in this story. Was the anger of Jacob's sons warranted? Yes. Was their action warranted? No. So we have a bit of an example of what not to do. We have a bit of an example of this is how anger not harnessed in our churches, in our families, this is the kind of destruction it can leave. Hey, I'm warranted in my anger. Okay. Doesn't warrant the actions that went along with that anger. Something to think about. Again, oftentimes the biggest enemies we have are the ones closest to us. I'm a church leader. I love and am protective of those people in my church. That doesn't mean that we always see eye to eye, and that doesn't certainly mean that I can control their actions. I can't. So what happens when someone in my church gets angry and decides to act on that anger? Well, he or she has jeopardized the view of the entire family in the community. Because that person that was acted upon is going to leave the church. They're going to go to a different body, and they are going to say, that church over there, horrible. All it is unforgiveness and spiteful actions. And that happens to churches, creates church divisions. This is the kind of thing that Jacob could have made a stand on, and maybe his sons would have left his home. This is how families divide. Jacob didn't. He stood with his family because really there probably was nothing else he could do. He's in the middle of Canaan, who is still populated by Canaanites. So staying together is smart, but we see the results of unharnessed anger. What did you see in that story? What did I miss? We didn't get into any Hebrew there. We didn't dissect the verses really down to the bare bones. It was kind of a story for me that I felt like the lesson was in the top view of it. The lesson was in absorbing the entire story all at once and then taking a look at it. Sometimes that's the best way to look at a section of text, in my opinion. But what did you see? What did I miss? Apologies if you heard the saws going. Yes, everything's still under construction at my house. Again, check out my friend Greg's website. It's not a website, but his YouTube channel, Greg Talks Tech. Check that out. Hope you guys are having a good week. Look for new videos soon because new ideas are hitting me like crazy. So until next time, you guys have a blessed week. Peace out.